A proportion is two fractions or ratios that are set equal to one another. You can check to see if they're equivalent by cross-multiplying.
We measured my height and found out that I was 71 inches tall. We measured the length of my shadow and found that I was 117 inches.
We measured my height and found out that I was 59 inches tall. Then we measured my shadow and found out that it was 102 inches long.
We measured the car's shadow and found it was 124 inches.
Then we measured the shadow of the building and found that it was 513 inches.
To find the height of the two objects, we compared our shadows and our known heights to the two objects' shadows and their unknown heights, being the x value, and just solving a proportion.
First, we set up a proportion of my height to the length of my shadow. We found that the proportion of my height to my shadow's length was 59 inches over 102 inches. Then we set up the car's height, the x value, over the car's shadow, unknown value. The fraction we got was an unknown number over 124 inches. Then we set the fractions equal to one another and compared them. We substituted in the measurements and solved the proportion. We solved the proportion and found that the unknown value was 71.73 inches. This is the height of the car. Then we set up a proportion comparing inches to yards and found that 71.73 inches equals 1.99 or 2 yards. This means that the height of the car is 2 yards. Two polygons are similar polygons if corresponding angles are congruent and corresponding side lengths are proportional. An example of two congruent triangles is the car and its shadow, and me and my shadow. To set up the second proportion, we compared Edan's height to the length of Edan's shadow. Edan is 71 inches tall. His shadow is 117 inches long. Then we set up a fraction of the building over the building's shadow's height and compared that to Edan's fraction of his height over his shadow's length. We don't know the height of the building, but we know that the height of the building's shadow is 513 inches. Then we compared this to Edan's fraction. We use Edan's height to find the height of the building. We set the fractions equal to each other, and then we solve. When we set up the proportion, cross-multiply and solve, we find out that the building is 296.74 inches tall, or 8.24 yards. To convert the inches to yards, we compare 36 inches to 1 yard and 296.74 inches over an unknown number of yards. We set up the proportion, set the fractions equal to one another, and solved, getting 8.24 yards.
We created similar triangles by comparing the building's height and its shadow to my height and my shadow.